Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. I'm Lady Bounce.
And I am Picket Fence.
And we are joined by a special guest, Mr. Trey Styles.
Hello, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
For sure.
Thank you for being here. So I'll start with the mindfulness minute for this week. And it says, if you would hit the mark, you must aim a little above it. Every arrow that flies feels the attraction of the earth. Word up.
Word up.
Now, Lady Bounce, what do you take out of that?
Well, in scientific teacher terms, it's the pull of gravity. So if you're aiming higher, then you're always going to hit your mark because you're aiming up here.
Aim a little bit higher.
So if you hit here, you're good.
Word up, word up. And once again, thank you to our special guest today, Trey Styles, who is an author and many, many other things. Please tell the people about yourself.
Well, once again, I really appreciate y'all for allowing me to be on your show. I really appreciate that. And as they told the audience, my name is Trey Styles. I'm born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I'm an author. I'm author of a book called Black Boy Rise. I grew up in Detroit, which was it's a tough place to grow up in. And I didn't know it was something wrong or how I was coming up until I got old and I got conscious. And so I wasn't supposed to be that way. I wasn't supposed to be exposed to some of the things that I was exposed to. And I went through a lot of tough times as a kid and as a teenager, especially because that was like probably the hardest time of my life was being a teenager. You're dealing with peer pressure, and, you're finding yourself and you're dealing with all those insecurities. So it was a real tough time. But it was a lot of love here too. There was a lot of love. I grew up around a lot of love, so I got a chance to experience the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it wasn't just all bad growing up in the city of Detroit, and all my experiences wasn't bad because I love my city and I'm proud to be from here. But growing up, I will tell you how I got into writing. I was in 8th grade, and I wrote this paper in a music class about how powerful music is to your loved ones. And my mom had read it and said it brought her to tears. And I thought, our moms and our parents big us up a lot, so we think, oh, it's nothing. That's just mama being mama. But it wasn't until later on when I witnessed a catastrophic event that I'll probably get into later when I was a teen, and I was deeply depressed and I needed some kind of escape. I wasn't gonna commit suicide. I wasn't gonna like try to escape through drugs and nothing like that. So writing became my way to express myself and to heal myself and to let the word hear my voice. Became therapeutic for me. The writing did. And during my teenage years, I began writing a lot of poetry. It was just spilling out of me. Like I wrote it, just spill out of my pen. So then from there, I went to college in Detroit, and I decided when I first went to college, I was going to be a journalist. But anybody who went to college, we changed our majors 3-4 times. So I did that. But I do remember graduating from high school, my English teacher telling me, congratulations, future writer. So I went through, bounced around, trying different things in college. I ended up graduating from college at Wayne State University, political science. And from there, I went to grad school and got an MPA, a Master's of Public Administration. I worked as a financial aid officer before, as a youth counselor. And I got to the point where I was ready to tell my story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I wasn't trying to embarrass nobody but myself. And also started my podcast, like Black Man Talk. And from in there, that's when I wrote my book shortly after, Black Boy Rise. And I was just ready to tell the world my story, and because I thought I was alone, and I realized that there was a lot of people that was going through what I was going through. They just don't have the courage to, to speak about it because they think people will call them weird, strange, or whatever. So that's kind of like what got me here right now today with you all.
Word. Now this is your first book.
This is my first book, yes.
Okay, and this is your first book is autobiography. And
Yes.
it's a story of you coming up in Detroit, which I have to say, it's one of my favorite cities. It's my second home. I
Thank
lived
you,
in
man.
Detroit in the 90s. And during the 80s, I spent my summers in Detroit. So it's like, that's my second home. I love Detroit. And
Thank
like
you,
you
man.
said, it can be a wild place.
Yeah, especially, I mean now, but especially you was there during the '90s when it was a lot more people here, still over 1 million people here. So there's
Mm-hmm.
people on top of people in the way. So it's a little different now, but it's still the same as far as the how greedy it can be at times.
Or yeah, I could definitely see that. We visit, every once in a while up there because we still have family and friends up there. And yeah, it's a lot different from when I was living there, but like you said, it's still grimy though.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's get into the book. Tell us something, tell us something, your favorite parts of the book, because it's like from different stages of life in the book, correct?
Yes.
And so break down some of the different things that you went through in different stages in the book.
Well, I give people a sneak peek into how it starts. The book starts with me starting to come out of my shell, starting to become more confident. I'm in 8th grade at this point. I'm in 8th grade, so it starts with me saying, I'm finally getting more confident when it comes to speaking to the young ladies. I'm an 8th grader. I'm going through puberty and things, so I'm getting more confidence to speak to them. I'm coming out of my shell a little bit. I'm getting more comfortable with my skin. So jokes about me when the little fake earrings, all that was to impress the girls. It was all about that at that time. So I'm in 8th grade. I moved to a new neighborhood. I was mad moving to the new neighborhood because, most of us, we like to be comfortable. All we know is the block a lot of times when we're coming up. All we know is our block. So that's life to us because that's all we know. And that's all a lot of our family members know is the block. So I moved to this neighborhood and I'm there after a couple of years, and I love my neighborhood because the neighborhood I moved to compared to the neighborhood I'm from, it was kind of like, I thought we had made it a little bit, because all the grass was manicured and everything, and people had their houses, so we thought, okay, well, we made it. But even though it was still in the city, but just because it looked different from our neighborhood. So I'm getting comfortable in my own skin. I'm believing that I can do whatever I set my mind to in 8th grade, until a catastrophic event happened and it changed everything. It turned my life upside down, and that's when I witnessed a shooting. I witnessed a shooting, and I had to go to trial to actually be a witness to what I saw as a young kid. Because it was extremely, extremely close to home.
Oh, so you were a witness for a trial in 8th grade?
Yes.
Wow.
And it hit extremely close to home. It was fatal, and so that changed my world upside down. Just imagine being this kid coming out of your shell. You're just 14. You're already growing up in a tough environment, coming from a family. We got a lot of dysfunction. You know how it is. Sometimes we grow up in the ghettos, and you got to learn a lot on your own, because a lot of times we don't have the best role models around. I didn't really have a lot of those positive male role models around in my life, so that just turned my world upside down, and it put me in a deep-seated depression. And I wanted to commit suicide. Only 3 things stopped me from committing suicide. 1, I didn't want to leave my mama. 2, I was afraid to do it. And 3, I was brought up at that time to believe that if you committed suicide, that you would go to hell. So those are only 3 things that stopped me, from killing myself. And I went through a very dark time as a teen, and I felt ugly. I had low self-esteem. My confidence was terrible. I felt everybody was talking about me, making fun of me. Everybody was looking at me. And then in the book, it goes through me going through all these insecurities and realizing that a lot of times people aren't even making fun of you. Nobody even notice you because they're dealing with their own problems. It's you. Starts with you. Like your problem starts and ends with you. So in the story, I go through a lot of ups and downs. My teenage years, talking about the peer pressure, and how I had to actually go to a mental institution for 5 days because I was working on myself and it was like it was a battle back and forth. You know, you feel high, you feel low, and then I just had a breakdown. I told my mom I need help. You know, it hurt her because she was going through her own things, and you know, she was trying to keep the family together. Because my mom was like the glue to the family after her mama passed. Everybody relied on her, so she already got a lot like the weight of the world on her shoulders. Now she got me, her only son, going through it. You know, not wanting to do it. So you know what that does. You know, it's not too many things more stronger than a mother's love. You know, so I go through that, and I started reading. I use Malcolm X as a model for manhood, and for Black manhood in particular. He became like an idea for me because I didn't have no guys like that around for me. And you know, I wasn't going to commit suicide, so I had to find some way to escape. You know, the Spike Lee movie inspired me, and I started reading the dictionary and all those things. And it answered a lot of my questions about like the Black condition in America, the human condition period, but specifically the Black condition. I got a lot of a lot of questions answered, excuse me. So I go through my teenage years, and you know, I even deal with some, without telling too much, I don't want to tell too much, but I dealt with some tough things in high school. It was like when it rains, it pours. Later on, I reconnect with a family member, and that family member, he inspires me, he encourages me, but he's going through a very, very tough ordeal. Like, but his life is on the line, but he's still trying to be there for me at the same time. And from there, I'll go up to when I went to Wayne State University at Wayne State, and I was ready to drop out, and he was there to encourage me, and I was ready to give up, even though he was going through what he was going through. His life was really on the line, and I didn't drop out I was going to drop out my first semester, and I buckled down. He told me, hey, you got to step your game up. He didn't let me give him no excuses. Next thing you know, I came out of my first semester at Wayne State University with 3.8 GPA, and that was that. You know, I went from there, like I said, and graduated. And I became a youth counselor, and that's my way of giving back, because I was already active. That was my way of giving back to the young men who was going through the tough times I went through as a teenager. And when I got in there, it was a whole nother animal, because I thought I went through it, and I did, but they really went through it, because some people don't have nobody to love them, and I was fortunate I still have people that love me. So my book details me from like 14 to my late 20s in particular, and you know, details all those things I went through, and it's raw, it's honest. It talks about my insecurities, you know, in a raw way. It talks about my flaws. I'm not intending on shaming nobody in this book. I'm on just revealing myself and my flaws. And I think a lot of young men in particular, young Black men in particular, will really be able to relate to this, because I talk about it all in a raw way. I even talk about things that some people say, I don't think I would have been able to say that. They laugh like, yeah, I respect you for saying that, but I don't know if I would have said that. I said, for me, it was therapeutic. I just wanted to get it all out. I wanted to get it off my chest. So that's like Black Boy Rise. It's really the underdog story. Like, for me, I'll say like the brothers that's unsung. Like I said, the brothers like me, like from the hood. You know, I didn't sell drugs. I didn't gang bang. No, you know, I didn't really get off in the streets like that. I know the streets, but I'm book smart and street smart. And I want this to kind of be like a our song in a way, you know, like for those brothers unsung like me. I say sometimes we like the forgotten, like they forgot about. Oftentimes they forget about the Black men who from the hood and who go through it too. But we still, you know, try to keep our morals keep our morals high and be principled, and try to get to a better life without harming anybody else. Not trying to throw shots at nobody else, but I just feel like I'm representative of those type of brothers.
Well, I have to
That's
say,
dope. I think we need more than that.
Well, I have to say,
Go ahead, Lady Man.
From a teacher's point of view, I have to thank you for your book, because we have all of these programs for girls. We have these campaigns and these commercials saying, you know, be you and be great and, you know, be who you are for girls. We don't take the time, I think, to realize that little boys go through it too, because we have this false sense of, oh, he's a boy and boys don't cry and boys have to be tough and boys can't show emotion. And so our young men are growing up, you know, with that thought that, oh, I can't cry, I can't be vulnerable, I can't have insecurities, I can't have low self-esteem. you know. So I have to just say, you know, from a teacher standpoint, thank you for your book, and I'll make sure that I, you know, definitely be passing it along to my students, because I work in a high school for at-risk students, dropout prevention and credit recovery. So the boy that you are the boys that I work with every single day. So that boy that is now you, that has, you know, grown into this man, you may have to take a road trip and come down here and talk to my boys, you know, because they need it, and they need somebody to tell them that it's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you
absolutely. I'm definitely open to it, because I mean, yeah, and it's true, because even dealing with, when I was a youth counselor, I was just listening to those guys talking. It kind of made me smile, because I'm like, it's kind of how we was in high school, and it was funny getting a little older and looking back at them, like the stuff they talking about and all that. But I was just there. I remember consoling kids because they loved ones had been murdered. I remember, I mean, all kind of, I mean, it was so many stories in there. Just talked about in the book, but I could write a book alone about some of the stories that was happening there. Y'all would know, because y'all have experience working with the youth, but some people wouldn't believe that people live like that. Like, because you could live in a neighborhood, like I live in a working class, I guess say working poor neighborhood, but all our lives are different in that neighborhood. You know, it could be somebody live next door to you, they have their mom and their dad, maybe okay, and then it could be somebody who live next door to just have grandma, or somebody else have just mom there, and all our circumstances are different. You know, some could be on drugs, it could be an abusive home, you know, it could be molestation going on. So, you know, all our lives are different. So we're not monolithic when we're in the neighborhood. So I just definitely think it was important to get my story out there and let these young men know that I've been there, and that you can make it through. It's tough. It's not gonna be easy. The more you go through, the more you're gonna have to go through. But because life is like an uphill battle, but it's a beautiful struggle. You know, life is just really what you make it at the end of the day.
For real. Now, what age group were the kids that you were working with?
They went from 12 to 21.
The age where they need somebody to be there for them.
They do. And then a lot of the kids, I mean, and it was all kind of things that was in there. Some was in there for murder, some was in there for rape, you know, some of them, robbing people. Some of them was in there since they was 12 years old, and they was waiting to be 21 so they can go to prison for the rest of their life. You know, and some of them had to wait till they was 21 to decide if they was gonna get released, or was they gonna still have to go to prison for the rest of their life. You know, one kid was 12 years old, had attempted murder on his own parents, and you know, it was a lot of stuff in there. You know, I had to break up fights and had to hold my ground, because sometimes they're gonna try you. But the weird thing is, when the kid tried me and he saw I wasn't trying to hurt him, I was just trying to be there for him, and I was sincere. That kid that tried to, you know, fight me in the cafeteria or whatever, the kid that spoke up for me on the pod, he said, y'all didn't hear Mr. Styles? You know, he started taking up for me, like, because a lot of them didn't have nobody really love them. When some of them see that you care about them and you love them, some of them appreciate that. And I will say, some of them, you know, you being a teacher, you can be as hopeful, you put as much as you want to, but then some of them they're gonna have to learn the hard way, you know. And it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. It's a brutal reality, though.
It definitely is, and it's heartbreaking, because, you know, I find myself, you know, I care more than they do, or I care more than their families do. And then, of course, you know, in this kind of work, it is definitely a work of heart, and it pulls at your heartstrings, because you want so much for these kids and you want all of these things, and then trying to find the words and the ways to motivate them to want it themselves. It is sometimes really hard and really like taxing, you know, to do and to deal with, to always try to find those words. And then you wonder, are they listening? And then there are, you know, other times where I have to concede and say, this is a kid that I can't touch. I can't help this kid. Maybe, you know, I need to pass this kid on to somebody else, because my words aren't helping, and I can't find it. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not so absorbed in myself that, oh, I'm so great at what I do that I can help every kid. Like, I'm definitely like, hey, I can't do nothing for you. Maybe Mr. Styles can help you, or maybe Mr. Jones can help you, because what you need, I can't give you. And it's okay to be able to say, I can't give you what you need, or I can't help you the way that you need, and then pass them on. But a lot of people don't do that. We get so caught up in I and me, and I did this, that I'm just not that person. I'm like, I can't do it, pass you on.
Yeah, you can only do what's humanly possible. That's all you can do. You're going to do what's humanly possible. And I want to let you know firsthand how powerful teachers are. And y'all definitely are underappreciated, because I went back to my teacher this year and gave him my book, my 5th grade teacher, a guy named Mr. Martin. And I actually, in my acknowledgments, I acknowledge him in there. Because I remember when I was in 5th grade, it's talked about in the book. I know I'm telling a lot, but it's talked about in the book when we was watching. It's weird how I turned out. We was watching the movie Glory, and I was making fun of what was happening to the slaves in the movie, trying to be funny. I was making fun of what was happening to us in the movie. And he got tired. He said, he just kept looking at me. He was like, step outside for a minute. He told me, step outside for me. He's like, I'm sick of your mess. You kicked off my team. And I wore a straight face, but inside I was crushed. I was like, oh man, because being on the basketball team, and that was the thing. And he was such an excellent teacher. He was a young man. He instilled in us to carry ourselves with decency and respect. With him, he told me, you're a great student, Trey. I got in the student council. I got kicked out of student council for clowning. I got kicked off the basketball team for clowning. And so I was kind of acting up a little bit. Hey, boy, never disrespecting the teacher, as far as like never name calling the teacher, but being, annoying as far as cracking jokes with my friends and stuff. And I went back to him and told him, I really appreciate you, man. You helped me. I saw all the teachers I had, you the one still stood out, because I went all the way to elementary school and never had a male teacher. I got to 5th grade and I had a male teacher, a black male teacher, and he was a great one at that. And he had a very, very, very big impact on my life.
That's dope. That's real dope. Now we know that doing this type of work with a counseling and having a life that you had and coming over adversity, and just thinking about it can really weigh on you at times, especially when you're working with the youth. So what do you do for self-care to kind of help you step away for a second, or to calm you down and put you in the right place?
For me, it's a couple things. If I can say, it's a couple things. For me, one of the most powerful things for me is meditation. Sometimes just being able to sit still. Just being able to sit still and just think about my life and think about my plans and just think about everything I've been through and everything I overcame. So sometimes I'll just sit still and just meditate and just relax my mind, and I don't think about my problems. I think about solutions to my problems. Because what I've learned is when you think about your problems, it only creates more problems and it only creates more stress. Or you think about solutions to the problems, it's kind of like a relief for you. When you think about solutions, because I remember at times I was just thinking about my problems, this or that, and all that. It kind of created a lot of mental strain for me. There was a lot of pain in my head at times, but when I started thinking about solutions, that's when things got better for me. And besides that, I'm a heavy reader. I love reading. I read about everything. Of course, art history, Black history. I'm always big on that. I love self-development books. I love those type of books. I hit the gym. Martial arts, and so those are things that kind of I do to help with my self-care, just me working to be the best person I could be, like always growing, just trying to be honest with myself, no matter what you tell somebody else, as long as you lay it down tonight and you be honest with yourself. If you be real, before you be real with anybody else, you gotta be real with yourself. That's first and foremost. And I just keep it like real people around me, not real because of the car you drive or how many women you think you can get, or how many men you think you can get, or how much your clothes are real as far as your integrity and your character. Those kind of people I surround myself around. Those kind of people that let me know, like my friends and my family, that let me know that, as far as say that your doodle do stink, that you ain't perfect, that you can be better and you can do better. And so that's all those things work in combination to help me with self-care.
Word up. That's dope. Real dope. So, Lady Bounce, what would be the takeaway from those ideas that he gave us?
So I would say, in the words of I.R. Conscious, that self-work, that everything that he named that he does for self-care, it's that self-work. It's working on self. It's that the meditation, taking care of your own mind. Yeah, so it's about that work.
Word. So this week's self-care assignment is going to be do the self-work. Do the self-work. And now let's break it to my favorite part of the show. Boom, 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 boom. Brain science.
All right, so this week for brain science, how a challenging past can lead you to a happier present. And so based on our guest and based on your book, it sounds like you had a troubled past in different areas, different pockets of your life, and now your life is much happier. So how do we get there?
Yes.
So you've heard the phrase, that which does not kill us overnight makes us stronger. And that was written more than 100 years ago by a psychotherapist, Friedrich Nietzsche. I think he was German. So yeah. But anyway, researchers call this post-traumatic growth. So recently there was a new study, like we didn't already know this information, but they studied it further and found that adverse childhood experiences often promote hard lines and resilience, and it shapes how people handle subsequent challenges in their life. So in other words, it's saying that experiencing trauma doesn't simply condemn you to a life that is going to be trauma and drama filled for the rest of it. You can pull out strength, courage, knowledge, and wisdom and have a much happier life. So how do we do that? I'm glad you asked. To move in this more positive direction and in light of this new study, here is an exercise that you can do to turn your past adversity into a new way to savor your present. First, I want you to pause. Take a few seconds to come to conscious awareness of being present and aware in this moment. Bring to your mind one moment of difficulty, pain, suffering, or loss from the past. Feel every facet of the memory. Visual images of what happened, all the people you were with, any emotions you felt, and then any emotions you feel now as you remember the event. Notice where you feel those emotions in your body. Notice any thoughts you have about yourself now as you remember this event. Now, I want you to shift the focus of your awareness to reflect on how you coped with that event and its aftermath. You may ask yourself, what lessons did I learn? What wisdom can I pull from this misfortunate event? What would you do differently now, having coped with and survived this event in your past? After you do that, I want you to shift your focus of your awareness again to how you feel about yourself now. Notice any sense of self-acceptance, self-appreciation, pride, or strength that is available to you now. Shift the focus of your attention once more and notice anything in your surroundings or circumstances right now, or anything you encounter during the rest of your day that brings even a small acknowledgement of delight. Then I want you to take 30 seconds to simply be with and appreciate the joy and the pleasure of this moment. Last but not least, repeat savoring the same or similar moment several times during the next 6 hours. The repetition of strength and the memory of it that you are creating, you are creating in yourself a resource of positivity that you can draw from at any time.
Word up.
Word up.
Word up. That's word up. So that's the brain science behind it all. So once again, we're coming to the end of our show. We want to thank you again, Mr. Styles, Trey Styles, for coming on. Please let the people know how they can get in touch with you, and better, how they can purchase your book.
Well, you can get in touch with me. I have a podcast called Black Man Talk. That's how you can also find me. It's called Black Man Talk. One word, Black Man Talk. You can find it on YouTube. It's also on Spotify as well. You can contact me on Facebook, Trey Styles, Instagram, Trey Styles 978. Also, just recently got onto Clubhouse as well. But that's how you can contact me, via those social media platforms. Now, my book you can find on Amazon. It's Black Boy Rise. You can find on Amazon, ebook or paperback.
Word up, word up. Go out, people, and get that book. It's an important book. If you have a young man in your life, whether it be your son or a nephew or something like that, this is a book that kid needs to read. It can help him because it is a troubling times that we live in, especially with all the things we've gone through in the last year and even before that. If you Black, young, in America, you know what it is.
Facts.
So thanks again for being on our show. We appreciate you. We will support your efforts and endeavors and make sure that people know about this book.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Word up. Lady Bounce, wrap it up for us.
Okay, well, I was taking some notes as I was looking down. So I took some notes, and I definitely will be purchasing probably 4 or 5 copies of the book this afternoon because I'm going to need them going into next school year. Because I think I'm going to use it to teach. Yeah, definitely going to use it and create some lessons around it. Yeah, because my kids need it. So yeah, I'm excited. Like, I can't wait to read it. I know you sent us some excerpts, and I read those, and I was like, "Where's the rest? I need more." So I definitely will be getting more books today, and then you'll have to come down here and talk to my kids and sign my book, okay? Because
I will do that. I will definitely do that.
I
definitely do that.
I love it. All right, Picket Fence, tell them where to find it. Now you do it.
Oh, you want me to tell them? Okay. You can find us everywhere. We're on YouTube, Facebook, IG, and Twitter. And as far as the podcast, you can find it anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Please follow us on Facebook. We have a daily self-care assignment that we post every morning. So sometimes you may be able to do them. Sometimes you can't. We try to make them little to no cost things you can do to just do some of that self-work. It's your boy, Picket Fence.
I'm Lady Bounce.
Fly With Us Podcast. We out of here.
And Peace. We out.